All right, now I want to go over to the Big Ten. Next game I have highlighted USC against Oregon. Probably the biggest game for each of these teams thus far. Obviously, Oregon played Indiana, but both these teams still in the hunt for the CFP and the Big Ten championship game. So the spread on this right now, Oregon's -9.5, and over-unders fluctuated a little bit, but last I saw was 59.5. So just want to briefly or quickly get into our thoughts, what in-season AI is telling us, and some quick thoughts about the game.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is actually a little bit surprising. What I'm seeing just from, if a team has, a one touchdown advantage spread, typically we're seeing the percentages of that team winning kind of in the mid 60s range, early 70s, but we have Oregon only at a 59% chance of winning this game. So I think that kind of requires us to look a little bit more deeply at the metrics that, why are we kind of picking this game a little bit more closely than the spread is inferring. And we also have a very low conviction rating on, the outcome of this game as well. So kind of briefly breaking into what the game prediction is saying and what the conviction rating is saying. Game prediction is based purely on metrics. So we run thousands of simulations across games both this season and last season to say, hey, we think that this metrics of this offense matches up against this defensive metrics, and this allows X number of yards, X number of points, etc. And then we put those teams head to head to kind of create what we call our hypothetical matchup. And then we kind of key in on each game each weekend to kind of refine those percentages. And then our conviction rating also looks at the metric, but runs a separate model that's saying, hey, we have either a high or low conviction on our pick. And so for this game, we also have kind of one of our what we call a toss-up, which is still accurate around 70% of the time, but not something we want to say, hey, hammer, Oregon on this game, hammer Oregon money line. We're still a little bit unsure of kind of how we would want to bet this type of game. It's highly unpredictable. We think that, Oregon has strengths, USC has strengths, but their weaknesses kind of conflict with one another. So that's what we're looking at this game. If I were sports betting on it, I would probably stay away from picking anything on this game because the outcome is a little bit more unlikely than some of the other games we're looking at this weekend.
Yeah, this wouldn't be one of the five kind of high conviction picks that
No.
will, put on X or Instagram or TikTok or any of that. But those did go 5 for 5 last week. So
Yeah.
please, be on the lookout for that, and then subscribe to kind of see all of these conviction ratings, all of these hypothetical matchup ratings, because last week the kind of high conviction picks we did put out went 5 for 5. So people who put $100 money line parlay on those 5 high conviction picks made $350.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's get more into the statistics, the analytics of this game, kind of see why it's spitting out, a 59% chance that Oregon wins, which kind of like you said, the spread right now is 9.5. So even though we're typically seeing that at like 60, 70%, this is only 59%, which is, good odds that Oregon does win this game.
Yeah.
But you're like you were talking about, not something to put the house on kind of thing.
No,
so let's get into that.
Yeah, I'm just not seeing a lot of value in the spread. And I think that kind of what it goes down to is, both these teams have pretty strong offenses. And Oregon has a very strong defense, ranking third in SP plus, whereas USC has a 36th ranked SP plus defense. But look, I mean, you can't say that, Jayden Maiava has not been able to, tear apart defenses, throughout the season. And I think that's kind of what I'm anchoring to from an analytical perspective and saying, though this is a great Oregon defense, have they faced an offense this good this year? You could maybe look at Indiana and say that, but again, that was a loss that Oregon faced a couple weeks back. So this is one of the better offenses that Oregon has faced. And they've had, a pretty tough schedule so far. But looking at it from that perspective, I think is where we're getting a lot of our uncertainty and saying, hey, can Oregon's defense actually hold up against USC this weekend? So just quickly looking at USC's offense versus Oregon's defense, USC gets around 190 rushing yards per game and about 300 passing yards per game. Oregon allows 110 rushing yards per game, which is kind of on the higher end, what we'd expect, but is only allowed 127 passing yards per game. So that's kind of where the conflicting nature of these two metrics kind of stack up against each other and saying, hey, well, if Oregon's actually able to hold Jayden Maiava to 130 passing yards in this game, yeah, of course Oregon's going to win this game. I don't think that that's something I would bet on necessarily, and saying that Oregon's able to do that again this week against USC, because if we take a look at kind of how Mavia has been this year, he's kind of stacking up the yards against his opponents. I mean, we can take out Nebraska and Northwestern as kind of his two lower passing yards games. But against Iowa, a very formidable defense, put up 250 passing yards, 1 touchdown, highly accurate in throwing the ball. Even in the loss against Illinois, put up 360 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. So I think that Jayden Maiava is going to be one of the better quarterbacks that Oregon faces this year. And when they faced a good quarterback at Indiana, they lost. And so I think that's kind of the story I'm seeing play out this year. And USC's losses have been close losses against two very formidable opponents in Illinois and Notre Dame. So that's kind of why I'm agreeing with kind of what our models are predicting for this game, because I think there's just too much uncertainty to actually have kind of a refined and highly confident pick.
Yeah, I agree, and I probably would stay away from picking this game.
Yeah.
If I just had to lay it all on the line, I don't know where I would end up, but I'm excited to watch it, and I think that this really is kind of best on best in terms of good offense versus good offense. Dante Moore versus Jayden Maiava,
Yeah.
and I'm excited to watch it. So if you're a college football fan, USC fan, Oregon fan, Big Ten fan, please follow, comment, like, subscribe. Check us out on X, Instagram, TikTok, and then check out INSZN.co and INSZNCFB.com. Either of those will send you to the site that it has all of our analytics, all of INSZN AI's insights, picks, all of that. And it's honestly phenomenal. It's a rabbit hole that I think all college football fans will enjoy. So thank you for following.